Hi, my name's Angus.
And I'm Dan.
And together we're co-founders of 575. This is like maybe a slightly more product-y talk or like just about a project that we worked on. So it's not super code related, but obviously it's like fully React Native. So yeah, let's get into it.
Cool. Me and Angus share a flat. It's us two and also a guy called Rohan who's somewhere at the back. Where are you? Oh, there he is. Yeah, so Rohan actually takes this really lovely walk to work every day. Very fortunate human being. And through lovely Regent's Park, he's actually inspired a few months ago to write a haiku every single day. And every time he'd come home and show me and Angus the latest haiku that he'd written for the day. And so we had this sort of like spark of an idea, thinking that, you know, there's no one out there which has made a cool haiku app that you can share a haiku with your friends every single day.
Yeah.
Let's make it.
Cool, so this talk is very quick. It's split into like these 3 different parts. We're going to go through like what the app actually is. We're going to talk about the tech we used, and then we're going to talk about like how we actually managed to get it out there and how we managed to keep working on it, even though it was enough free time.
All right, so just to give you the real quick elevator pitch, as if you were all going to invest millions of pounds. So it's really quite simple basic app. You've got a form where you write your haiku. It's got built-in AI validation. So it counts the syllables and makes sure that it's a valid haiku. And then once you've posted your haiku for the day, you can actually like access the feed and see the other haikus that everyone's posted. On said feed, you can comment on them, sort of interact with them, share them with your friends outside of the app and so on. And then we also recently added this feature to sort of have like a journal of your past haikus, I guess, but you can only see your own past haikus.
Yeah, and we're obviously on the App Store and, you know, for iPhone and for Android. And we've seen quite a lot of success just with word of mouth. We've actually managed to get over 500 haikus posted. These are all real haikus written by real people. Quite a lot of them me, but yeah.
And one of our favorite features of the app as well is the fact that you actually hand draw your own profile photos. So these are like a selection of some of our favorite ones that we've seen on the app. Yeah, in varying degrees of appropriateness.
Great, yeah, so let's move on to our tech stack. Basically, it's super simple. We use Firebase mostly for the auth and for the real-time database, although we don't really use it in the real-time way, which I only found out recently was actually how you're meant to use it. And we use Expo, of course. We use Expo, really useful, especially for notifications. We do have like a very, very light backend, which is like one serverless function that fits in the whole screen, which we run on Dino, but really could be run on anything, just to like send all the slackers who haven't posted their haiku for the day a notification.
So yeah, so for the sort of like last part of the talk, and to keep on track with what Angus just said about the Dino script that we run from our computers locally. Our first sort of core value of the company is a zero bloat culture. Those of you that know Angus quite well have heard him like spew this word thousands of times. And what does this mean, Angus?
Basically, like, you know, we don't want to introduce anything or get sidetracked or, you know, waste time thinking about things that don't contribute towards what's the main idea we're working with here. So here's a good example. This is our kind of like landing page on the web. We don't really have a website, even though we're both web developers who make websites for a living. We just use this website builder called Bento because like any second spent, you know, working on a website is like a second not spent thinking about haikus. Yeah, and this is a quote you've probably seen a million times from the LinkedIn guy. And like, you know, obviously when you launch something, it is quite personal. You know, it's kind of like posting a poem on 575. You know, you're kind of like putting something into the world, but like really, it's so much better to actually see it like, you know, come to fruition than it is to like sit on your hard drive.
So this brings us on to our second company value, core value, and that is setting a deadline. Naturally, as a haiku app, we had like, obviously, as you all know, National Haiku Day on the 17th of April. So that was like quite a nice launch date. Surprisingly, not the 5th of July. Those of you that know haikus will get that. And so I was actually flying back to the UK on this day. We still pushed for the launch, still like sort of like manning the ship remotely, getting people at the pub to download it. And yeah, we actually saw like a lot of traction sort of on this day, a lot of bugs as well. But yeah, so having that sort of deadline there really kept us accountable, really made us push for it in the few days before, made sure that we were like requesting App Store reviews at least a week before. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. I think this is one of the most important ones is like, you've got to be prepared to disagree with the people on your team. Having other people on your team really does help you, pushes you all the time. And, if you're working with someone and you're kind of like saying, well, I don't, thinking of, or like, I didn't really like what they did there, but like, I'm just going to keep working on it. Eventually the project's going to fall over. You really have to be always like, making sure you're both aligned. And if that means like something like this, like reverting each other's PRs, then that's just the reality of it. This is all part of like, making sure that, you're both aligned and working on a focused product.
And for the last one, of course, to like go hand in hand with the sort of last value that we have, it's said perfectly by one of the French core values. And that is, of course, like, even though we do disagree in a healthy way, and that is a healthy thing to do, we still got to like sort of prop each other up at the right moments. This is the day that we were approved on the App Store, which, by the way, they didn't even use the app. They logged in. They didn't post a haiku, so they didn't actually see most of the functionality of the app. Still quite confused about that, but I'm not going to question them. So yeah, sort of that like healthy disagreement paired with like being there for each other. Of course, it's like a sort of like side project thing that we do on the weekends and in the evenings. So it's not like we've got hours to spend on it.
Yeah, there's always going to be lulls and like times when you run out of interest in the project, or you feel like you're losing steam. And like I think this is when it's really good to do things in a group with more than one person. It really helps you like push each other up, and you always think, well, maybe I didn't want to do this on my own, but like I'll do it because I know it'll get everyone else in the project involved in it again as well.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. And if you do want to download the app and find bugs for us, then yeah, feel free to download.
Thank you so much, Dan and Angus. We'll take like 3 questions.
Good talk. Did you consider integrating ChatGPT with high temperature and eventually grading the haikus?
Yeah, actually quite a few times. And like I think ChatGPT is actually quite a lot cheaper than I thought it would be to actually integrate, especially the older versions. But like at the end of the day, if you have a poetry app where the app writes the poem for you, you might as well just like uninstall it.
And on the grading point as well, we did try it out with a couple of our favorite haikus from the app. Rob wrote a great one on the day that we had the idea. And it gave it a 1 out of 5. And I've just turned my back immediately.
Awesome talk. Is the app source code open source?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
I don't want to say because I feel like now I'm just going to try it.
Where do you want to go with this? What's the...
Yeah, no, I mean, we already have 500 haikus. So to me, I think, well, honestly, just like reading the things that people submit, like, they always make me laugh, or, they make me smile or cry. I think that makes it all worth it. Like, obviously it's like, doesn't really have like legs as a business, but like, not all programming actually does have to have like a commercial impact. Sorry, I feel like I steal.
Okay, round of applause for Dan and Angus, please.